Welcome back. So there is the graduate, of course, MP's dilemma, where the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has written to the Clerk of the Senate, and they're requesting for an advisory opinion on the proposed amendments of the Election Act relating to the academic qualifications for members of Parliament and members of County Assembly. And it goes on to say, let me just read a bit of it there, that in view of foregoing, of course, they've given a raft of issues there ahead that I won't name out because of interest of time, that in view of foregoing, the Commission provides guidance as follows. A change in academic qualifications from a bachelor degrees to basic education will have an impact in the final scoring and grading of the job of a member of Parliament, that is MP, a member of a county assembly, and the resultant remuneration as illustrated in Table 1 and 2. The removal of the degree as a requirement for the role of MP and MCA will negatively affect the current grading and subsequently the remuneration and benefits for the said state officers as illustrated in that table as well. The SRC will undertake a re-evaluation of the role of MP and MCA if changes in the job descriptions have been effected. And of course, they're given here. If you have a bachelor's degree, of course, you have the weights 8.4 there. Total score is that. That is the grade they're in right now. That is the salary. That will go down to 306 if you are not a holder of bachelor's degree. And no formal education at all. That is basic. That will be the amount, 216,563. But before we continue pace with this particular conversation, I just want to hear, but we had not cleared on the direct nominations for female candidates as proposed by Sabina Chege from different parties. Okongo Mugeni, we were on you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I
think ODM first of all open to this particular pronouncement, not so to speak, or advice from Sabina Chege?
No,
or suggestion?
In fact, we don't even need advice from Sabina Chege because the amendments that we carried on the Elections Act actually obligate political parties to observe the two-thirds gender rule when you are undertaking nominations for various seats. And parties that do not comply risk getting some punishment in terms of deductions on allocations of funds from the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So that is actually a legal requirement that was passed by Parliament when we addressed the elections amendment, the political parties amendment bill. So it's a matter of...
It's a legal requirement, but it's never been effected.
It's a legal requirement that
from the party level, because we have the special interest groups as well who they've been complaining.
But you know, Dibal, it's not easy. You have heard my good friend Cholet telling us that we should pick as many candidates as possible for those gunning for positions of governor. But there are counties, I want to give an example, that there are counties like where I come from, in Nyamira, where we don't have a lady candidate vying for position of governor. The same case with my neighboring county in Kisii, even in Kericho. So how do you attain that requirement of picking a third of governor candidates being women when there are no women offering themselves as candidates? The same thing for senatorial seats, because most women choose to run for women rep and not senatorial. So I think the issue of gender must be progressive. You know, in 1944 in America, we just had 9 women in Congress. In the last election, they have now broken the glass ceiling. We have 100 women in House of Representatives, not even the entire Congress, but in House of Representatives. So this issue of gender, I mean, we identify with it, we support it, but we have to accept that it's something that will be very progressive. Even in the judiciary, you know, Dibal, 10 years ago, we didn't have a single woman serving in the Court of Appeal. But as we speak today, the 3 top positions in the judiciary are in the hands of our good friends, ladies. The Chief Justice is a woman. The Deputy Chief Justice is a lady. The Registrar of the Judiciary, Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, is a lady. So this has been progressive. I'm sure even for these other positions of governor, senatorial,
thank you.
It will be something that will be progressive.
Thank you.
And maybe if you allow me to make a final point. Remember that in our constitution, there are already 47 slots reserved for women in all the 47 counties. And then there are 16 women that come direct to the Senate through nomination. So this problem of 1/3 has never been an issue in the Senate. Where it has been a challenge is in the National Assembly. So what we need to do is to encourage more women to come out, strong women. Because each party, Dibal wants to give tickets to candidates who have shown in opinion polls that they have chances of winning those particular seats.
Right. Honorable Peter Kaluma, because we hear it's supposed to be progressive, we have the sunset clause as well, and this has been also a fig leaf for the legislators because it is bound to be progressive, then we don't really effective. You know, over time it will shake into place. And it appears it's a mirage. This will not really come to a reality. You take briefly.
Yeah, Dibal, the problem we have is the design of our constitution, because at some provisions the constitution requires that not more than 2/3 of one gender should be in whatever public offices. At another, we have a system where in our elections which dictates we go by what we call first past the post, meaning the people elect their leaders. In all democracies where we have met the 2/3 gender requirement or such other, leadership quota, we have what we call a party list system. You go to South Africa, you go to Rwanda, people largely vote for political parties, and political parties present a list of their nominees which meets, whatever gender balance requirements, the constitution stipulates. But in Kenya, we are here, Dibal, saying you shall have not more than 2/3 within one gender. And then you send Kaluma, Sosion, Sholei, and Okongo to go and fight it out with other candidates outside there. Ultimately, in that context, Dibal, the situation is that a party will pick the candidate which will, compete the other candidates for the same seat and win the seat for them. So I agree with Sabina Chege, but I also add that it is impracticable. I mean, you will go to the place of Sosion, for instance, and say we want a female senator for Bomet. Remember, it is not the party dictating. Ultimately, the people will elect. You drop the popular candidate against that lady. The lady will be beaten in the elections and the party shall have lost. So the realities on the ground is that we ought to have, taken, the BBI Popular Constitution Amendment Initiative seriously and seen whether to go the party list system, in which case we do away with the first past the post, or we remove the 2/3 gender requirement and allow the people to elect as they want.
Thank you.
Now, in our constitutional design, what Sabina Chege is suggesting will be a Waterloo for parties which follow it headlong, because you pick, but you are still meeting the candidates of the other parties. You leave Sosion, if he's popular, we will pick him as another party, or he'll go as an independent candidate and still win, and you lose. So the problem is impracticability. I don't know, Dibal, whether you wanted me also to comment on the matter.
We're coming up to it shortly.
Yeah,
we're coming up to it shortly. So let's hear from Sosion, and I will ask you, Sosion, would you, because I know you're vying for the Bomet senatorial seat as well, if the party, that is UDA, met this particular declaration that there will be direct nominations for the women for that particular seat, will you be willing to willingly forfeit that particular contest? Yeah, for the women.
I think gender issues are very progressive in the different democracies, and different jurisdictions are trying to adopt different frameworks to enhance gender representation. Yes, I agree. Kenya is a signatory to international conventions, particularly on the rights of women and promotion of gender equity in all sectors, and particularly the SDG 8. That seeks to promote. And of course, we have constitutionalized representation of both gender. When we talk of gender, it's both men and women equally. It is not just about women alone. We must ensure there is equity on both sides. But on this one of direct nominations, we must not undermine meritorious democracy in promoting the same. I think why we've made laws and why we've even casted it in the Constitution is to enhance representation and activities of those different genders in the different activities. So I believe very strongly that even as we encourage participation of women, it should not be given to them on a silver platter, or you push out men completely. There must be parity, but then the sanctity of merit and sanctity of universal suffrage by the people to elect either gender must be protected. So then the issue of direct nomination should be applied very, very carefully by any political party that is seeking to apply, or any jurisdiction that is also seeking to promote the same, so that whoever is being nominated should merit and should be able, just in case of going through any electoral process, should be seriously electable by the electorate. At the end of the day, the purpose of a general election is for the people to exercise their sovereign right by electing a leader, regardless of gender. And I think even as Kenya, because we promoted gender equality, and we must fast-track gender issues in all sectors, even including education. I was seeing in education, 74% of head teachers and principals are men, 27% are women. And when we look at the data in terms of gender in the teaching service, is that we have 52% men and 48% women, which is almost 50-50. And we must encourage both gender to participate first in politics equally in equal measure. And we have seen university girls, and this debate we should not ignore. And these are indicators of gains in the gender program and gender advancement. We have seen young university girls who have just graduated contesting parliamentary seats. And these are fresh graduates from the university contesting women representative seats and other seats. And I think these are great gains in this country. Thank you, Sosyon. But there must be a sunset clause to all affirmative action, so that we have a society that is balanced. We cannot have this gender affirmative and direct tokenism that is given all through and through and through. We must have a sunset clause at a certain time that then we should be able to do away, because the society will be operating on a 50-50 equal basis.
Right, thank you. You've made your point, but you've not really answered my question. I know you've answered it largely in what you're saying, but I asked you a very direct question as well at the end of the day. Will you forfeit? Will you not?
I don't think I'm one person who is going to...
All right, thank you. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that. Thank you, Sosyon. We've had you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, back to the topic at hand right now, which is the graduates, of course, MP's dilemma, whether now that particular salary, if at all, this particular, of course, Election Act is in place right now, and the Salary and Remuneration Commission is seeking an advisory opinion from the Senate that whether they should go full steam ahead and scale down on the salaries, according to the job grades. Let's just begin with you, Gladys Boss-Chele. So we were passing this particular election amendment bill wholesale and saying this is the way, at least we want leaders who can, tease out issues as far as legislation is concerned in house, have good debates in the house as well. But we didn't see this coming. So this really coming from the left side, that yes, we'll have degrees, but if you don't have, if you're a non-graduate, also your salary has to go down.
I have never supported the view that members of parliament and MCAs should hold degrees. That has never been my position. I've come out in public and did not agree with that requirement. Reason being, I believe that when a degree requirement is required, it's because there is a specialized technical task that you're going to do. For example, if someone is a brain surgeon, then you want them to have had studies that give them the ability to whatever level, usually a degree level, to be able to operate on someone's brain. But There are certain jobs that don't necessarily require that very specialized skill, but requires somebody to have other skills. For example, I think being in parliament requires one to be a visionary leader and a person who has an understanding of the people that they represent. When you're in parliament, we have professionals who can advise on certain legislation that we need to pass and so on. And the member of parliament is just supposed to look at it in the context of how it affects the people that they represent. The other point here is, at the moment, 60% of parliamentarians have degrees. It hasn't improved the level of debate or the quality of debate. If you do average of the number of MCAs that have degrees, it's actually 50%. And this is when I take all the numbers and work out an average, it's 50%. So the notion that the degrees will improve the quality of the output is actually not based on fact. But we must also be alive to certain facts within our country. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, only 491,000 Kenyans have degrees. That is 3% of our total population. Are you telling me that these 3% are the only ones who will be entitled to run for political office? No, I think it is wrong. Until such time as the country gives everyone access to that degree level, then we can demand it. America doesn't demand it, Europe doesn't demand it, even though people have access to university degrees. And like I said, historically, there is no correlation with having a degree in good leadership. Mugabe had 7 degrees. He sank Zimbabwe.
And 71 diplomas.
Yes, yes. And also, let's look at this. People like who are pilots, plumbers, nurses, medical equipment technicians, people who you allow to administer chemotherapy, to administer radiotherapy on patients, something as serious as that which is life-threatening, don't have degrees. Are you telling me those people are considered lesser beings, that they cannot run for political office in Kenya? No. And I have been in parliament and I've seen. I know people who are medical doctors. They are pathetic members of parliament. It doesn't mean that because they have a degree, they can be good. I know someone like Honorable Leshomo, the woman representative of Samburu. I've listened to her. She debates in Kiswahili in parliament. But she has such logic. And I think she's one of the wisest people I've watched in parliament. She's able to understand the challenges that face the people in Samburu. Lastly, I'd like to say something about the SRC. When SRC says that they're going to reduce salaries, or that the salaries if the people don't have degrees, the question is, do we pay pilots less because they don't have degrees? So actually, I think whoever is at SRC definitely is not qualified for the job. Because when you are looking at the indicators for deciding what is the remuneration that is commensurate with the kind of work you're doing, you look at the workload, you look at the responsibilities, you look at the duties, and you look at the functions. You just don't look at the degree. Those nurses who deliver 90% of the children in this country don't have degrees, but the children are alive and well. You look at the workload. So the myopic view of only looking at the degree is unacceptable. So I don't know where SRC, I think they need to go back and study human resource management and job evaluation technique.
All right.
Because they definitely don't have it.
So they're off track completely on this as well.
Off track completely.
Okay, let's hear from Okongo Mogere.
Yeah, I think first I begin with SRC. And we as members of parliament must accept the reality that the Salaries Remuneration Commission is the one that sets terms of service or remuneration for people who are state officers, including members of parliament. And SRC may not have a problem with us as parliamentarians if we have to put a minimum qualification as certificate of education for one to be able to vie for a seat of member of parliament. And as Shole says, if that is the view of parliament, so be it. But we have to accept the reality that the power to set remuneration is with SRC. And whether we make a lot of noise as members of parliament, this will come with a consequence. That's a matter of fact. And you know that in the past, parliament has tried to come up with terms of remuneration for members of parliament outside the terms set by SRC, and members have had to refund that kind of remuneration. So you can go ahead and put the certificate qualification, but it will have an impact on the remuneration of members of parliament. And I think the letter you are reading is just a signal from SRC that we will not dictate to members of parliament on the laws they pass, but if you put very low qualification, academic qualifications for members of parliament, then that will affect your remuneration. I think that's what SRC is saying. To Dibal, you know, this country has a history. If you go to the Bombers report, before we enacted the 2010 Constitution, our presidential candidates were not required to have a degree. That's why President Moi was able to run government without a degree for 24 years. But there was a feeling by delegates who are in Bombers that we should raise the bar for people who are going to be tasked with running affairs of our country. That's why if you go to their constitution, for you to run for the office of president, deputy president, you must have a degree from a recognized university. For you to run for position of governor, you must have a degree from a recognized university. Now, for members of parliament and members of county assemblies, Article 99 placed the trust on members of parliament and said parliamentarians will enact legislation that will put the minimum qualification for members of parliament and members of county assemblies. Now, if you read the reports, people had issues with the caliber of candidates who were nominated by the late President Moi to serve as nominated members of parliament. You will see reports of citing people like Mulu Mutisia, who had challenges in communicating on English, through English language on some issues. People like Baringetuny. That's why delegates were of the view that there should be some qualification for people who are going to be tasked with this serious business of legislating on behalf of Kenyans. Now, what the 12th Parliament did is it said, fine, we'll put degree as the minimum requirement, but we'll give members time to go study and get degrees. And some members did very well. People like Charity Ngilu were able to do parallel degree programs and qualify. But I think others don't even have the minimum qualification to progress to a degree. So that is the history for our country towards this requirement for people to have a minimum degree. But you know, Dibal, I want to pose this question, that there are positions where if you want to aspire to occupy a certain position, if you want to become a secondary school teacher, you know that you must work hard and get a degree. We have opened higher education to almost devolved it to all the counties. If you go to Kisii now, you'll get a university. You go to Eldoret, you'll get a degree.
Which is collapsing. Most of the universities are collapsing, actually. More universities collapsed, essentially, in Eldoret.
Could I finish? Then you can make your point. So anybody who wants to get a university degree, a DBAL, there is opportunity. This has been devolved to all counties. So if we are telling our children that even people who are aspiring to be their role models in terms of being their leaders cannot work hard to attain university education, yet even primary school teachers, the P1 teachers, are now being required to progress further and get diplomas before
let's say from Peter. Thank you.
They become, before they get positions of teaching in primary school. So the point I'm making is, I think let's debate this issue carefully. Let's look at the history, why this requirement was put in the Constitution, even as we legislate as members of parliament.
Right. Let me come to Peter Kaluma and ask you, are we also preserving these particular seats to make them to be very elitist? If, for instance, Bob Collymore was here today, bless his soul, Will you want to tell me that he will not really run for any? Of course, he's not really Kenyan, but I'm just giving a case scenario here. Will he really not run for any electoral seat because he's bad? He doesn't really have a degree at the end of the day. We've seen what he did with Safaricom. Of course, one of the blue chip companies that is very successfully in the country. So in light of that, what Gladys is also raising, that we have also captains in this country who are flying us. They are not holders of any degrees at the end of the day, so to speak. We have also the CEO of SportsPesa who really wants to run for the Kasarani seat at the end of the day. I don't know, maybe he has a degree or not, but I know he's a captain, he's a pilot as well. At the end of the day, he will not really run because this threshold that you're putting, he needs a degree that you become, you know, a very effective leader if you have a degree at the end of the day.
Yeah, the debate here is turning in the wrong direction. I interpret the letter from SRC to be saying that you will be paid according to your academic qualifications.
Yes.
And SRC is saying if people want a person without a degree to represent them, they have the right to elect him, save that that person will not run as Okongo Mugeni who has a degree. And I think that may not be unacceptable. That to me is a possible solution to the quagmire in which we are. I've been an advocate for Parliament in the matter concerning their remuneration, which currently Dibal is in the Court of Appeal on appeal by SRC because we won first round in the High Court. The problem with the approach of SRC is to use a tool meant for private sector for elective public offices. SRC should realize that Parliament is structured different from a person like you, Dibal, coordinating the interview on behalf of the Standard Media Group here. You need some level of intellect. Parliament, number one, is a house of representation. And in Kenya, we have very sharp people. We also have people who are uneducated. Now, if the people in their largest numbers decide that they want to be represented by the uneducated, so be it. But, Dibal, my caution is that before we elect people into Parliament or county assemblies, we should look at what role we are electing them to go and play. Look at Article 95. Look at Article 96. I mean, if we are just electing people for the sake of being represented in the House, you can elect anybody. And Dibal, you've seen so many MPs who are not able to participate in any debates in Parliament. Your newspapers, your media always goes out there to confirm how many MPs have not spoken at all. Even in this term of Parliament, I can tell you, Dibal, there is a very big bulk of MPs who have not gone beyond, taking oath of office in Parliament there. Now, beyond representation, there are some roles of a member of Parliament which are very technical, Dibal, extremely technical. The Parliament budgets, so Congo Muge News determining what amount Homa Bay should get as against Kisii, as against Nairobi County, as against Turkana. It is Kaluma who will be deciding how much money should go to defense, should go to security, should go to health, and those portions of our functions which are not devolved. Beyond budgeting, Parliament oversights the budget to check that the monies were rightly applied. Parliament is given the power to initiate the removal from office of all state officers, including the president and deputy president and governors, cabinet secretaries and everybody, and actually to impeach them. You see what happens in the Senate, quite often within each of these terms. Now, if you are going to have those roles, then we must alert Kenyans to the fact that you may love so-and-so who does not have the basic degree requirement being spoken to. But that means, therefore, that so-and-so you may love may lack the capacity to do the work. Now, I would personally not fight SRC if they say give people the liberty to elect whoever they want for representation purposes, but then recognize the academic qualifications of those various people. Let me tell the members of Parliament outside there, Dibal, today, that the level of pay of a member of Parliament is at the level of a principal magistrate. You know, these are the things that people do not know. Members of Parliament's salary is gazetted at below 600,000. That's what a principal magistrate pays. And what I would request the SRC to be alert to is that when we have coordinate arms of government, we have the judiciary, we have Parliament, we have the executive. Let the terms of people serving at the same level in accordance with the SRC Act itself be the same. When I'm a member of Parliament, I can oversight even the CJ. Nobody can sit as a CJ without my approval. Nobody can sit in a commission without my vetting. How do we have a situation where a commissioner being oversighted by a member of Parliament now earns more than double? So I would request that SRC does not just look at this tool they are using for private sector, but harmonize pay.
Thank you.
As is mandated to them by the Constitution. That way it would work. And why it has not happened, allow me to mention this debal, is that if you go to the judiciary, the articles concerning the judiciary tells you that the terms of a judicial officer cannot be reduced to their detriment. And that is why the terms of the judges have been constant up there. When you go to commissions and independent offices, you are told their terms cannot be reduced. So they are constant to before the new constitution. When you come to the pay of members of Parliament, it has been left open there. And that is why each election period, we are debating what a member of Parliament should be paid, which to me is unfortunate, and we must stop.
All right, Wilson Sosion on this as well. You being a teacher,
yeah, I think since introduction of SRC in our constitution, we've witnessed a lot of disorder in terms of and very strange proposals coming up in terms of remuneration of public officers, state officers. And according to me, it is wrong for SRC to prescribe payment of salaries to members of Parliament on the basis of academic qualifications. Parliament is not an institution, it's not a technical institution, it's a leadership institution. If you look at the traditions of democracy, you allow people to elect a leader who will represent them in the House. And when we get to the House, there are no better leaders than the others. All of them exercise equal mandate of representation, oversight, and legislation all over the world. So you cannot develop salary structures of members of Parliament based on qualifications. It's, if we look at even aspect of performance, there are members of Parliament who have performed very well in this Parliament without any strong qualification in terms of representation. And if you look at the history of the Kenyan Parliament, someone like Martin Joseph Shikuku, who was branded as a people's watchman, and someone who could do research and place data in Parliament and debate very well and eloquently, did not have any university education. People like Tom Boyer did not have any university education. So really, Parliament is an institution in terms of traditions of democracy, of representation of the people. And what the tool that SRC is trying to impose in every other public institution. We saw in the teaching service, they recommended that teachers of Kenya are semi-skilled and they should go back for retraining. Now Parliament, you've got to desegregate and pay according to qualifications. I think this is fundamentally wrong. What we probably need to do, and all over the world, members of Parliament are not just elected to go and earn a salary. They earn an allowance for sitting in that particular Parliament. And I think Parliament should be allowed to self-regulate and determine terms and conditions of service for the members of Parliament rather than handing it over to a strange body that is proposing strange proposal that is likely to affect even the democratic practices and freedom of the people. I think what we should do in this country is to let IEBC conduct civic education among the voters before any election, so that really the JD of the members of parliament can be explained to the people, then the people can elect the leaders they so want, regardless of the academic qualification. I think the minimum requirement for you to be elected to parliament is some level of literacy and ability to debate. Right now, we are campaigning all over the country, and I think we are presenting our abilities to debate, to conceptualize issues, to represent people, and the people themselves will exercise their sovereign power in the ballot box.
Thank you.
So if we narrow down to bring in the academic qualifications, I think we will be undermining democracy, and we will be limiting people from participating in elections and being elected freely.
Right.
I think what we need to do is to strengthen the civic education processes.
Thank you. Thank you,
and allow the people to elect the leaders of their choice. And once members of parliament are elected to parliament, they should be paid equally because they've been elected on the same instrument and the same platform.
Thank you for that clarification. I have to butt in right now. And Gladys, even as we bring this to a close, we are past this junction, aren't we? Because the act is operative right now. So even what we're saying, whether they should not do or do it, it doesn't really matter, because this is an adversary they're seeking. And if it sails through, it means then that particular job grading will be done and people will be affected. Maybe coming, not for this particular parliament, but the incoming parliament at the end of the day. So I'm conflicted, not really conflicted, but I'm not clear as Mwananchi where we are at, because in the Senate we have another bill that is on the floor of the House. Maybe he will tell us that seeks to reverse this electoral amendment bill. Is that the case? Just bring some clarity.
I think the position is this.
The position of the law at the moment is that you do not need a degree to run for member of parliament or for member of the county assembly. For member of parliament, you're required just to have a post-secondary education. That has been settled. But there was a law, and there were also court cases that were running parallel. And that has been settled for this particular parliament. But I think the discussion we're having seems to go the direction that qualification is synonymous with a degree. You can have qualifications of flying a Boeing 467 or whatever they call it. That's a qualification. I can be managing mega machines, an MRI machine or whatever, and being the engineer that repairs it, or the person who manipulates it and drives it in the hospital. That's a qualification. So let's forget, qualification does not equal a degree. Qualification is whatever task that you are involved in. You could be driving some road building equipment. That's a qualification. So I think there's some confusion there. But, and also what it has done, it has gotten to the point that when people require degrees, then people end up just going because there's one thing to have a degree certificate. It's another to acquire the knowledge and the skill. So we have a lot of people who've just run through the classes, probably paid someone to sit into the class and write their exams and so on, and then they have a degree. It doesn't mean they have acquired the knowledge. So an SRC, yes, has the power to set remuneration. It's their constitutional duty, but they also have a responsibility to ensure that the tool that they're using to undertake the job evaluation is a suitable tool for parliament. They will have a suitable tool for the judiciary. For example, if you're going to be a magistrate or a judge, then you have to have a qualification and have the knowledge of being able to interpret the law.
Thank you.
Let me clarify. This is the position. The current position is that under Section 22, people vying for position of members of parliament and county assemblies are supposed to have minimum university degree education. But on a position of MCAs, there was a case that was filed in courts And the Court of Appeal declared that requirement for members of county assembly to be unconstitutional. So that was struck off from section 22. Now, relating to the members of parliament, that section 22 still remains applicable to those vying for position of members of parliament. But the Senate
you need a decree.
Incoming. Yeah, there was a transition clause that said that that particular requirement will be applicable on the elections that will be carried out in August of this year. So as the law stands now, that is the position that you must have a degree requirement. Now, there is a bill that was passed by Senate Bill number 42, that was of 2021, that was sponsored by Senator Murkomen. Now, that bill proposes to remove the degree requirement and substitute it with a secondary school certificate of education, or anybody who has previously served as member of county assembly, or anybody who served as a councillor during in the defunct councils that were there previously in the old constitution. So that's the bill that now has been sent to the National Assembly for consideration. So if National Assembly agrees with the proposals by Senate, then section 22 will be amended and the degree requirement will now be totally deleted from our books, substituting it with certificate qualification, secondary school certificate qualification, or having served as an MCA previously, or as a councillor, using the whole constitution. So the ball is in the Court of National Assembly to consider that law, either agree with the proposals of the Senate or reject the proposal of the Senate. So depending on how the National Assembly will handle this matter, it will either agree with the Senate and remove the degree requirement, or reject the proposal by the Senate, then the degree requirement will remain in force. Now, if you read the High Court decision, why the judges faulted section 22 is because while enacting that particular law, the previous parliament did not engage in public participation. That's why if you read the newspaper today, page 8, National Assembly has put an advert inviting Kenyans to come forth and make their proposal so that there is full public participation on the proposed amendments to section 22. So that's the position currently.
That's the position currently. Okay. All right. I don't know if Peter Kaluma and Wilson Susuni have to weigh in on this, because we have to move on swiftly. I'm just remaining with a few times. But
yeah, I think conclusively, in terms of education, we should urge the society to reward education during election. And I think that is the most important thing, that when Kenyans are electing leaders, they must consider their level of education and their capacities. If that was done, we will not need these laws. The people will definitely elect the best from their people among the society. And that is what we should seek to promote. We should seek to promote decisions that people will make on the ballot boxes. If really we would want, and of course we agree, the modern parliament requires people who are highly informed and skilled from the different technical fields, because the aspects of representation, legislation, and particularly oversight requires a lot of high-level capacity in terms of knowledge. So thank you. We would urge Kenyans to promote rewarding of education, particularly when they are electing leaders. And let us not only talk about the National Assembly requiring men and women with degrees. I think now, with huge resources being devolved to the counties, we need a stronger and highly capacitated county assembly. And I've seen in some wards across the country, even men and women with PhD coming out to contest as members of the county assemblies. And I think we need stronger leadership, even at the counties, to manage the resources, to oversight the county government. And I think there is no doubt, we agree principally, the current leadership, both at the county assembly and the national assembly, must have the highest level of knowledge and skills through education.
Thank you very much.
Edibal, the attitude of SRC is that if we are going to lower the degree requirement or the academic qualification requirement for members of parliament, then their pay will go down. And this is what I need to warn MPs about. It has been a tussle in all the litigation I mentioned. We have been involved. I don't, of course, agree with SRC, but I think the current and those who intend to be MPs in future should be alert to that. My view is that Honorable Kongo, the bill coming from the Senate, would have retained the degree requirement, but if there was need, extended its enforcement period the way we did in the previous year, so that as a matter of law, the degree requirement is there, but people are encouraged to progressively, attain it. If you collapse it down, there will be a problem. But again, lastly, Dibal, look at the judiciary, for instance, and this is where I'm faulting these two SRCs using. All judges, all judicial officers have degrees. In fact, Dibal, you'll be shocked. Some magistrates have doctorate degrees. Some magistrates are more learned and more experienced than even the judges. But the judges are earning over 700,000. Some magistrates, you see them crossing the road being hit, walking home with the people they were just jailing in court before. What we need from SRC is that they should understand the principle of harmonization in the Constitution as their core mandate. And if they decide it is degree, then let all judicial officers be at the same level if they are similarly qualified.
Thank you.
Imagine if they were to apply what they are proposing to Parliament in the judiciary. It means those magistrates who are more learned than judges even in the Supreme Court should be earning more and should be facilitated more. So they should look at harmonization in terms of roles across the organs of government, and so that we don't have a situation where if you are in the executive Dibal,
thank you,
like you remember people like Chesa previously, you are earning more than a member of parliament, yet you are a standard 7 dropout somewhere. Let us harmonize. And let us not use tools not meant for public institutions to gauge their pay.
Thank you very much. All right, let's just bring it to a close. I will be remiss if we don't look at the editorial cartoons right now as we wind up the show. We looked at Gado previously and, of course, the situation in Ukraine. Let's now just look at what is in the People Daily today, and this is what Stano has drawn for us here, coming to America. And, of course, this is the Deputy President's tour right now in the U.S. We know he's wound up that in the U.S. He's now in the U.K. And he says here, meet my delegation. The fat one is a real hustler, and the thin one is called Mama Mboga. And you can see who Mama Mboga just on the periphery, or here on the frame of the wheelbarrow is you and Jiko. Right, and the unflappable smile of President Biden personified there by Stano, right? Let's just hear from Gladys. Gladys, you're missing out on that particular editorial cartoon. Of course, you can update us on the tour of the Deputy President in the US, and of course today is in London as well.
He's in London, yes.
Okay, so do you have the itinerary at hand so that we know who is meeting today?
Yes, he'll meet Kenyans from the diaspora. He will also meet senior government officials in the UK, yes, and there are many of the government officials who want to understand and to have him have an opportunity to articulate his foreign policy, his economic policy for Kenya. So basically the world is gearing up for the next president of the Republic of Kenya.
All right. Okay. All right. If we have it.
And I would just get this opportunity to also congratulate Eliud Kipchoge, Bridget Kuske, Angela Tanui, and Laban, who
of course they've done
made Kenya proud.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Tokyo.
Thank you very much. Back to the cartoon, if we may have it back.
You invited Shale to comment on the cartoon, and I thought she would say something about the person being.
If we have back the cartoon,
it doesn't make sense to me.
Riding on a wheelbarrow past the president.
They're basically showing that UDA met the US president. That's all. So they've got the UDA symbol, they've got the UDA presidential candidate, and Joe Biden. I don't know what they want us to make of that. It's a fact, it did happen.
It did happen. All right.
Was there a meeting between Biden and...
No, I'm saying that's what they are depicting.
I think I thought the cartoon is depicting Biden there, wandering, smiling. Somebody's riding on wheelbarrow. But they didn't get a chance to tell Biden what the wheelbarrow is all about, and that was it. But I think on the only comment I can make, and I have a lot of respect for DP, it was really in bad taste, the BAL, for somebody occupying that position to go to a foreign country and start castigating your own government from a foreign country. I don't think that has ever happened anywhere in the world, even in the most advanced democracies.
Raila did it all the time.
The problem with Sholei is that she does not allow us to make our comments, yet we always allow her to make our comments. The BAL, I can tell you, in countries like Norway, the sense of patriotism, the pride of the Norwegians, there is no way they can allow their deputy president to travel to a foreign country and start castigating and casting aspersions on office holders, constitutional office holders from foreign land. You can do that in your own country. But traveling all the way to a foreign country and utter those kind of words is something that is unforgivable.
Thank you.
And Dibal, one comment. I've served in this country before as a chairman of Law Society, and I've gone to foreign international forums, but I've never opened my mouth to criticize my country from a foreign land. I can do it from here, but I cannot travel to London and start castigating my own country.
Thank you, thank you.
That's very unfortunate.
Let's hear from Peter Kaluma briefly.
Yeah, after nearly 10 years of service as the deputy president, I would have expected our deputy president to go into foreign lands for serious meetings. I watched our DP landing at some airport in the United States with this trolley being pulled by the former Vice President Musalia Mudavadi. No reception from any government official. And I'm asking, how can we have a deputy president serving as a co-president for all that time without, any serious links and connections outside there? That one was a bad show. Then you see the deputy president crying at a mere governor. I think that was the governor for Nebraska. And then when you look at even the lectures he's having, the majority of the people seated there are part of his delegates. But that trip, generally, Dibal, to me, manifests the hypocrisy of the team that the deputy president has under UDA. These are people telling you high food prices. But you have a whole delegation of over 30 people doing nothing. But, in a foreign country on taxpayers' money. I hear at the rate of Parliament is going to spend over 107 million on the trip to the US alone, knowing the rates of allowances per day. Yet you have the same DP and his team crying here food prices are high. I'm grateful that it was received well in London. I hope he's going to engage meaningfully, not just to appear to be traveling around. But we want a leader is liable to be meeting more serious people when they travel outside.
Thank you. Wilson Sosyon, briefly.
Yeah, I think let's not criticize for the sake of criticizing. The presidential candidate of Kenya Kwanza, William Ruto, had a wonderful trip in the United States to enhance international connection and also project the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and the agenda of Kenya Kwanza and the expectations of the people of Kenya in terms of free and fair elections, and I think all was done very well. All these other criticism of you should have done A, B, C, D, those are just mere noises. That is not going to make any difference. The truth is, there was a wonderful meeting in the US, and of course, is going on in London, and that's a clear manifestation that, of course, a very serious presidential candidate within the country is engaging internationally, and there is all the evidence that William Ruto is doing very well and will do very well in terms of international matters once elected as the fifth president. So those criticizing
we were supposed to be winding up. Thank you. We are pinched for time. I give each of you just 20 seconds. 20 seconds, Gladys Bostrele. Each of you.
Say that William Ruto did not go to the UK and the US at his own behest. He had formal invitations from those governments through their embassies. He also received clearance from Uhuru Kenyatta as head of state. He cannot leave the country as a deputy without clearance and his itinerary being known by the head of state. That was fully within. When he went to the US, it wasn't, he met business people who trade with Kenya, he met development partners, he met members of the Security Council, and he met various secretaries of state, including the Secretary of State for African Affairs. Raila Odinga is on page 6 of the Star. He is flying to the US for a 5-day tour, and we're not going to begrudge him of that.
Thank you. Well, let's leave it at that. 20 seconds, Okongo Mogeni, 20 seconds.
Yeah, she didn't say that when Raila was in India, he actually met the Prime Minister of India and they discussed serious businesses. That's what we expected of the DP. But from my end, I want to wish my candidates who are doing Class 8 and Form 4 success in their examination. It's been a difficult year for them, and I want them to have courage and hope that they will perform well in the exams.
Thank you.
Success to all the candidates.
Peter Kaluma.
Our candidates for this year have started in the most difficult of times due to the coronavirus outbreak.
And insecurity as well.
We want to tell them they are already victors being candidates in this difficult season. Don't be worried, our candidates outside there, we are behind you. Whatever result you get, you're already a victor.
Thank you.
We want EACC, as I've seen in the Star, not to slow down in the fight against corruption. I'm very concerned we are not seeing any further arrests. Otherwise, we wish all institutions to work well as we approach elections.
Right, thank you very much. Finally, Wilson Sisson, very briefly.
Wish all the candidates, both KCP and KCSE, success, as they said, for their exams. And Kenyans are looking forward to very historic elections on 9th of August that will unchain them from the circle of poverty that has prevailed from 1963, and we hope this time round poverty will be thrown out of this country through the ballot, and we will have a country of equality and equity and equal opportunities.
Thank you, Wilson
through
Sisson.
the 5th President, William Samoei Ruto.
Thank you, Wilson Sisson, nominated MP. Thank you for coming through. Also, Gladys Boschele, women rape, Wasingishu County. Thank you for coming through. Senior Counsel Okongo Omogeni, Senator Nyamiru, thank you for coming through as well, and Peter Kaluma, thank you for coming through, Member of Parliament, Homa Bay Tana. Thank you for that cordial discussion we've had. I think now we've set things clear as far as the graduates' dilemma is concerned, so you have the answers at the end of the day. But don't go away, much more coming up on Morning Prime. It's a big day, as we had Peter Kaluma saying for the candidates KCPE, and we'll just want also to just give you the feel and flavor on what is happening on the ground right now. We'll cross over to us in Gishu County.